are you? It's a beautiful day out. My name is Meira Blaustein. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Woodstock Film Festival. And it's so nice to be here. Thank you. So this is the 26th annual film festival, and it's Saturday morning. We have been going very strong since, well, Tuesday night, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. For those of you who attended any of our events, there's so many films and panels and concerts and parties and all kind of things going on all over the Hudson Valley, and lots and lots of really great filmmakers. And they come from all over. And we love having them. And we love seeing how they interact also with the audience and with each other. And so many new relationships are formed and careers are being launched. And it's just a really great environment for creativity, inspiration, and learning, and friendship, because that's the most important thing, I think. This morning, we have something very special. I have known the couple who are going to be up here, Mark and Katie, since probably like 2010 or something like that. Mark may correct me. When we first showed his film, Puffy Chair. And since then, Mark began his career in what was called the Mumblecore. And since then, his career has grown so much, but the person remained just as friendly, just as wonderful, and just as creative. And it's so nice to welcome him back. So I'd like to bring to the stage Mark Duplass and his wife, actress and director Katie Esselton. And to host the conversation about spouses working together is another actress-director whose film we showed at the festival last year, The Uninvited. She is very familiar with what Katie and Mark will be talking about, and her name is Nadia Connors. Come on up, Nadia. What? 2000, oh, Mark, they were here first in 2005, sorry.
We weren't even married, there were no kids.
Okay, you do you hear that? Well, this is quite, I mean, that makes me even happier to have you back here 20 years after. Love that. Okay, if you can, please forgive us, we're going to take a quick photo, and then I'm going to leave, and the conversation will begin. So please just give us one awkward moment.
Come on. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Oh, it's great.
America's Next Top Model.
Okay, it's Saturday morning, open your eyes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Sit.
Where do you want to sit?
You sit.
Near me over there? Hello. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. And thank you, Meira, for your introduction. I just have to correct one thing. I am not an actress, and I never have been. So if you're like, I've never seen her in anything before, she must be really bad. Just know that I never
You're like,
tried.
I am,
I
actually,
swear I
really
never
bad.
tried, no. But I am married to an actor, and so I had a film here that I wrote and directed, actually. It was called The Uninvited, and it screened last year with my husband, the actor Walton Goggins, in one of the leads. And so at
Did you hear
home-
that mesmerized go through the audience? There was-
I mean, this is really the main reason I'm moderating this panel, is because I'm married to Walton Goggins, and that's
was
an
it
interesting...
Like, was it like,
What's that like?
What is it like to be married to that crazy motherfucker? Or was it like,
That's the subtext that we're going to get into
yes.
for an hour. I'm going to turn this into group therapy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I prepared an introduction, so I'm going to read it. At home, collaboration is the texture of our marriage. The work is mostly solitary until the film The Uninvited made our long private conspiracies public. More than anything, he's my champion. He's my first believer and the last line of defense. And you need that in this business, creatively, in financing, in production, and during release. Because in an indie film, money is thin or imaginary, relationships become soft power, the invisible current that carries you over impossible odds. Katie and Mark know this as well as anyone. Indie film runs on favors, time you don't have, and the freedom to try, fail, and try again. And yes, what is more cost-effective than working with the person you already live with? But still, helping each other isn't the same as fusing into one. The point is to guard separate lanes so the film, not the marriage, is what it's about. And our guests have been negotiating these realities for years, with projects woven into the fabric of their marriage. Today, I want to talk about process and workloads and kids and family life and working alone and working together, or the value of not working at all for a moment. How do you keep the collaboration that lives at home? And so in this moment, with your film Magic Hour in competition at the festival, congratulations. I hope
Good
you all
plug.
get to see
Good
it.
plug. Right in that intro. Yeah.
And all your other work comments, starting and finishing. I'm going to talk about where do you find yourselves today after all these years of growth and discovery and change. Or we can start more simply and go deeper as we go. About the creative method and your relationship, and how just beginning to unpack the way that works together. And we could start now with Magic Hour and move our way back, because Magic Hour is a beautiful film, and you wrote it together, but I saw it, and we spoke briefly about it, and I really feel you through it. And so it's really interesting to me the ways in which you balance and play with who's in front, who's behind, where the support goes, where the collaboration ends. But I really felt you physically and creatively. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You should start. It's your movie.
Yeah, thank you. That was really nice. Magic Hour was a project that was born out of frustration with sort of, I would say, my career in the business, but also like where I felt myself going creatively. And I just like remember looking at Mark and being like, I need to make a movie the way we used to make a movie, which was just to make a movie for us, the movie that we wanted to make. I felt myself sort of going down the road of like, well, what's gonna work? What's gonna sell? What's going to, what's gonna move me forward? What's going to, and it's like, we're at a place in our business, for better or for worse, mostly for worse, that like there's no guarantees. Nothing works. Nothing sells. Nothing. So all of a sudden, all of that went out the window, and I was like, what if I needed to like feed my creative soul. I was like, I just want to make a movie for me. And he was like, all right, well, let's write it. And we were on a road trip coming down from Big Sur, and we sort of like vomited this idea that just kept snowballing into a voice memo that's, I keep saying it's still on my phone, and it's the freaking movie. It's crazy. And over a 5-hour road trip, we sort of shaped out this movie. And every time we'd hit like a wall or get stuck or stagnant, would be like, well, what's really weird? What's unexpected? That's why there's bananas and drag queens, and it's just like, every time like you'd hit a wall, you'd be like, what lights me up inside? Like, what makes me laugh? What's surprising? And that was sort of the mentality I kept through the whole making of the movie of like, well, it doesn't matter. Like, stop thinking about what a film festival will love. Stop thinking about what distributors are going to be excited by, and just fucking make a movie. So.
And that's what we did. Yeah, I mean, it's it is a deeply complicated process making art with someone that you love. For anyone who's in the audience who has done this, and it is
Or attempted to do it.
Yeah, it is a wonderful, beautiful process. I love it so much. And the older we get, I think, in general, the better we get at navigating what are the best roles we can occupy in order to support the other one and fulfill them and not challenge and not step on. But of course, you just make mistakes along the way. It's never clean.
Well, it's impossible to like to put your shit away.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we've got so many, you know, in a long relationship, you've got so much is baked into that, you know.
Well,
you've
you
got
put it away.
insecurities
Yeah.
and sensitivities and you know, like if you're working professionally, you show up and you're like, all right, I just gotta, you know, I've got a boss and we're gonna hit heads sometimes and it's gonna be whatever. But like when your coworker is your partner, you don't put it away.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the questions that I had because, I mean, you've been working together from the day that you met, really, or no? You
Kind of. Mark was an indie musician when I met him. He was a frontman for an indie rock band. So no, we weren't always.
But you started making movies together as a product of your relationship. in
We
many
were
ways.
24 and 26 making little short films together. And so it's been a part of our fabric for, almost 25 years at this point, yeah.
Well, so what's interesting to me is that so I've been with Walton for 21 years, and we've always talked about my writing or what he's reading or what he's doing, and then we've had projects that haven't gone, multiple that haven't gone. So what's interesting is that this one that did go, you know, was something that I entirely wrote and directed, and he originally wasn't even going to play. He said no, you know, and I was like, well, I don't think that's gonna work.
Yeah.
But no, he was honestly busy, and it actually went to someone, Billy. Billy said no. So, but we had Pedro, and we had all these other people, and we had a window, and we had to make that window, and we shot this movie for $812,000, and everything was going except for the husband role. And so what was interesting was that after all of these years of collaborating, he ended up playing a husband that I wrote and directed, you know, and that was super challenging for the relationship because the first thing he said to me was, I am not this guy. I was like, I know you're not this guy, but you can pretend to be this guy. You know what I mean? But because
you're an actor, honey.
but it was like the bleeding of like what part of this marriage is us, what part of the marriage isn't us. And I think what he was telling me without knowing, and you guys have done this and navigated this and have known this, is like it's totally different once you take this relationship onto a set.
Yes, and that is, I will say, something that it's so much more challenging, I think, if you are on set together, particularly directing your partner, because we did a short together last year that was Mark and our daughter, and I directed it, Mark wrote it, starring Mark and Aura. And then years ago when I did Black Rock, which was a movie I was in and directed, Mark would come to set. So when it's your partner, you know when they're faking. You know everything about them. The intimacy level is so high that like it's so different than any other director because like you can't pull anything over and you also can't like get anything past. Like I just would like look at Mark and be like, we're gonna go again, and be like, I'm doing it. And I was like, but you're not doing this.
Everybody else would be fine with this performance.
Everyone else would be fine, but like because
You know I'm full of shit, but nobody else knows it.
Yeah, and there was a moment
we
in Black
relax,
Rock
please? Where
I remember Mark was behind the camera and he like pulled me aside and he was like, "You're not good in this scene." And I was like, it's the middle of the night. We're losing the tide. I have to be good. That has to be enough. And he's like, we're good. You should
I was
go
a
again.
little nicer than that, for whatever it's worth.
No, he wasn't. It didn't feel that way. But that's very tricky. I think we have sort of established a very healthy dynamic of us collaborating in pre-production and in post. Like, we work very closely on the edits.
That's right, yeah.
And then when we are at our most vulnerable, we kind of stay away.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a flow now that we've discovered through the years of collaborating, and Magic Hour was, I think, pretty indicative of what we think at this moment in our collaboration is a good flow. And it's something that we talk about a lot, which is like, when you're an independent filmmaker, you are forced, for better or for worse, to get good at lots of different roles because there's not abundance, right? So you have to figure out how to be a decent editor, how to cook for people, how to be a writer, a director, a producer, all those things, right? But then I think it's important to ask yourself, like, well, what is my superpower and where am I maybe replaceable? And I like to ask myself that question a lot. And so for our collaboration for Magic Hour, Katie is such an incredible visual storyteller and director. When I'm thinking about a story and I'm writing a story, all I'm thinking about are the people's faces and the feelings that are coming out. And that's all I care about. And Katie is
Like,
a
let's make
painter.
it pretty.
No,
Let's
Katie's
make
a
it really
painter.
pretty.
No, but you can don't do that because you're way more than that. And she's a painter, but she can also hold those things too. So I know my job as a collaborator is to be in that car with Katie and to help her with whatever screenwriting tools I have had, which is one of my superpowers. I've been doing this for years. I know how to get a shitty first draft out really quickly.
That's amazing.
That's one of my things, right? And I can get past the fear, and I can get that B- on the page, so then someone who's more of a closer can come in and take that B- and make it into the A that we hope it will be. So that's my job, and to listen to her and see what's coming out of her heart. What is that thing that made you say, I gotta make this movie? What is that? Also bring enough of myself to it that I feel like I could be legitimately helpful. And the answer for that for Magic Hour was an exploration of our codependency. And it's something that we talk about a lot, that we're very interested in, that we find is, codependency is bad. If you don't stand on your own 2 feet, then you lose yourself in the marriage, and that's the whole thing, right? But on the other side, we're like, isn't it kind of what we all want? Like, to be so enmeshed with someone, you love them so much, you can't really even imagine what it would be like to be without them. That's the romantic dream that I saw in the movies I watched, and where's the fine line in there? So that was my take on this, and that's how we came up with this idea.
So the content was reflective of your good, bad codependency.
Exactly.
But the process as well, because you were frustrated and he answered in a car ride.
And just to, sorry, I just want to finish that thought to the tune of, like, we specifically planned that I would not be on set. Part of it was
Okay.
pragmatic. We have daughters. I was going to stay home and do that. But there's also this thing that happens where you'll notice with any couple and any power dynamic, if I'm going to be on set, she's going to be a certain way. And by removing myself from that scenario, Katie was able to come forward in ways and step into herself in ways that we talked about and we identified ahead of time.
And this is something I'm sure that you have dealt with as well. It's like Mark is more established in this business. Everyone in this room is like, it's the guy from the morning show. So people on
Not
set,
everybody. Somebody are like, who the fuck is this guy in the trench coat?
but
He's the guy.
inevitably
She
people
married
on
him?
set will look to him for an answer when I'm the director, which is like wildly frustrating.
Okay, this is
And
where
that's- and
this
that's
is
no
a
bueno.
really,
And that's the real
really
talk.
interesting. The wife of, and having an opportunity to just be you.
Yeah.
And sometimes
know?
people don't even realize they're doing it,
Oh,
yeah,
all.
There's
it
no
doesn't
malice.
feel
No
malicious.
malice. No,
It
no,
is
no.
just inevitable because when someone who is more experienced is there and is like a confident,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's inevitable
Well,
and infuriating.
the set changed when Walton came to set, but that is also kind of part of his personality. because he's so full on and so. Some people said to me, like, what was it like working with your husband? And I really had to think about it for a second because I don't feel like I worked with my husband. You worked with Walton. I worked with Sammy, the character. You know, like he was so not Walton the whole time. Like when we went home after shooting and laid in the same bed together, I was like, who is this person? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? You know, which is the question.
But was the sex so good?
There was
Because you were like, I'm cheating on my husband with Sammy. And it's different, but it's the same.
I mean,
And I kind of like Sammy a little more.
I mean, let's just, well, anyway.
Listen, we've been married long enough to know that that's not true.
I will tell you that he does obviously get so deeply into his characters that I do lose him from, you know, oh, he's a little bit Rick Hatchett right now, or he's a little bit, you know. And then once he got offered this role to play a schizophrenic who thought he was Jesus, and I was walking by him in his office, and he was watching, it was based on a true story, and he was watching videos in the 1950s of mental institutions, and I'm like, I think our marriage is going to be over. Like, there's no way
Like,
that I'm going to be able
He's
to
not coming
stay
back.
I can't.
with this guy through this. And so our son and I met him in New York where he was shooting, and I was really bracing myself for a Psycho, you know? And he had the big beard, you know, he thought he was Jesus. And it was almost like the best month of our marriage because I wasn't with a schizophrenic. I was with someone who thought he was Jesus. And he was so nice the whole time. He was patient. He was generous. I was like,
He's
this...
bringing fish to the parties, turning water into wine.
I was like, this
Just
psych.
beautiful.
This is what I'm going to do, is write a role for him of the
nicest
doting
guy.
husband.
The doting husband.
The stay-at-home dad. But no,
Who's
anyway.
obsessed with cunnilingus, really, is what we're talking about. So, yeah. We get it. Yeah.
No more villains for him. Anyway, but going back to the set thing and the separation thing, because we talked about that a little bit, and the benefit, so I relate to the benefit of having him on set, and that whole question triggered for me was people really sat up, and even though we had Pedro Pascal and Rufus Sewell and Lois Smith and everything, he has this thing, and he's a clock watcher, you know, because he's done so much television, and you gotta like, you know, so he was helping drive the train. And some people were like, are you okay with this? And I'm like, yes and no, you know, like, because he wants me to win. And there are things that I don't know because that was my first feature that I directed. And so he was like trying to help, but at the same time, also trying to like sit back. And
Delicate.
so delicate.
Delicate.
So this is what I want to know about, for instance, why Mark didn't play.
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious
David
thing in the
Diggs' role.
world would be like, well, just cast Mark as the husband. Doesn't that make sense? And there's a couple reasons why I really didn't. And one is like, we did the puffy chair together. We did the love story together. We've also been married for so long. Like, it would be a little bit like, aren't we so in love?
That was the
That's
big
a good
thing.
point.
We talked
Like,
about it. I was
kind
like,
of
I was like,
implausible. No,
if
sorry.
like an on-screen couple had like, you know, or an off-screen couple had done that, and I was walking in the theater, I'd be like, they really want us to just invest that their love is so deep, it's special. We need
What?
80
It's
minutes and all the
devastating.
music to what, you know,
Yeah.
we were like, but that being said, we are independent filmmakers.
But I was having a very hard time casting the role
Well,
of
let's
Charlie.
fucking talk about this. So this is, I mean,
Please jump in.
my perspective on this is like, we're trying to cast this movie. It took us about a year to cast this movie, maybe a year and a half, to find the right person who would do this. Granted, I'm going to be gracious here. This is a completely low-budget movie. There's no money in it. But
It was also right after there was something called like the 3% challenge, where all of the big male movie stars were like, we are committing to working with a female director.
yeah,
Absolutely. This is an atrocity. I cannot believe only 3% of women are directors.
and we brought them all a wonderful offer, which
with
was
a
like,
heartfelt letter.
come out to the desert for 2.5 weeks.
Right.
We will put you in a beautiful place. We're going to put you in a movie the entire focus of this movie is making your performance look incredible in a two-hander. So the worst thing that happens is you get incredible stuff for your reel.
Right.
You go on the festival circuit, very little time, and you get to support a female filmmaker. And they were like,
No.
I just said that in the letter.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't
And you kind of go
mean
through
that.
and you look at all those guys and you're like looking at their resumes and you're like, you still haven't fucking done it. Like, okay.
Which, look, you know, we can have grace. We
And
understand.
this whole time, over the year and a half, Mark is like, I will do it. I will do it. I think we could do it. And if you really want to make this movie, I'll do it with you. And I was like, no, I want to do it by myself. Because I really knew that I wanted this movie to be my movie. I really, as much as like it was a collaboration writing it, I had a vision for this movie that I knew did not align with his vision. We make very different looking movies.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know if if you remember what like Jeff Who Lives at Home doesn't look like Magic Hour. Magic Hour is anamorphic and very cinematic and
Did you really shoot only at Magic Hour?
we
well,
tried.
we can talk about that.
Right, but a lot of it-
Joshua Tree doesn't really have much of a magic
No, it
hour.
goes
'cause
quick.
there's-
It's like
Which
light
is
or
still
dark.
stupid.
The point, your
Yeah.
movie is a big hopper painting.
Yes,
That's not
yes.
what I
And
do.
Mark would
you know?
like literally be there and be like, "No, we're just gonna shoot this in full sun.
Right.
Let's just go. Come on, we can
I
go."
don't care. I want 50 takes on someone's face, whether it's lit or not. And Katie does something different. So I think that's a really good point, is that I don't want to be reductive, but I think this is true. This is not our movie. This is Katie's movie.
That we wrote.
That Duplass brothers produced and financed, and we set it up to win with one of our favorite filmmakers who can make things really cheaply that look good, and we want to support this vision. And I was able to support it as a co-screenwriter, but more someone who was like, what do you want to make? And I'll support that. And then we used a lot of our support systems as producers in the back end of the movie of like, well, here's help in post-production. Well, let's test it on our audiences and our filmmakers and learn what works and learn what doesn't. And I love doing music score because I was a musician, so I always kind of get a little involved with that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But it was really all in support. And while it's never totally that clean, if we stay roughly along that ethos, it works very well for us.
Well, you're also not ever co-directing, you know, and so someone once told me, you know, it was an Italian editor who, you know, in the hierarchy of filmmaking, when you're the director, you're the director. And when this, you know what I mean? Like, that's it, you know? And so there's something very different when I was preparing for this panel and looking at, you know, married partners, you know, that are co-directing.
I honestly don't know how
that's really
that
different
happens.
because you can support, inspire, and you have clear boundaries.
Yeah, it's almost like we tag team in the creative conversation, you know, and there's like handing off and then conversations at the end of the day.
Well, this is one of my favorite things is to talk about is like how often are you guys talking about story at home?
All the time.
We have a thing that we do we call drunk development.
No, that's all we do.
It's like the best. It's like and it
red wine
happens
development.
100%. It's like after a cocktail and a half, we've created 4 projects. Some of them actually come to fruition.
Most of them don't.
Most of them don't, but it's like our brains are
But it's still
always
fun.
working
It's
in
like
that way.
it's almost just like going to a nightclub.
I don't know what I would talk about if I was an accountant and my husband ran like a dry cleaning business. Like, what did they?
Well, we actually went through a period where we kind of almost intentionally stopped talking about work. I think it was actually, now that I'm remembering correctly, it was after making the movie together. No, but it was my movie, but he felt so protective when it came to the edit and the producers who wanted to cut these things. And
So you had outside financiers and producers that you had to answer to, and he wanted to take care of you.
And he was, you know, he should have actually been a producer on the movie, you know, but
That's an extra dynamic we didn't have to deal with.
we did, and I had a very different vision than the financiers. I didn't actually get my final cut, so I still wake up at 4:00 in the morning and go, Like, why? You know, and that's okay. But he was very protective of that part. And, you know, as a husband, sometimes if you can't fix it completely, it's hard, you know. And there was a little bit of a nightmare feeling after that.
Yeah,
like
and it
maybe we
leaves you
just
in
like,
a place where you're just like, I know, but I am in this position because I am the director.
Yeah.
That I do have to concede to.
I have to
like as much as it's pissing you off.
Yeah.
I have to.
But he did fight for me. And then I guess at the end, the point, going back to what you're saying, is there was sort of an unwritten, you know, agreement that maybe we just like not talk about like what we're doing next, or not talk about what you're writing. Like, let's all just relax. And I mean, I don't want to say we didn't have anything to talk about, but it wasn't as fun, you know? And then it was like, okay, let's talk about this thing. Okay. You know, like, and then it's just like, it's the texture of your marriage.
Well, it's also
you know?
like your connective points.
Yes.
Like it's what lights you up.
It's what you're interested in. So even if it doesn't come to fruition, it's still something.
But it's also
to talk
just
about.
sort of like how our brains work. Like they're constantly, his especially, is like constantly cooking.
So when you're working on separate things, are you sharing as much, or do you come home from the morning show and go talk to her about scripts or what's happening with you?
It's usually projects that I'm working on as a creator, and a little less on projects that I'm working on as an actor for whatever reason.
Well, the projects that are other people's projects, you can't really change that much.
Yeah.
So it's like less creative and more like, I saw Billy.
Yeah.
You know, saw Billy today. He's good.
Yeah.
Jen says hi.
So you don't do, well, so Walton does after a couple of glasses of wine, he starts doing his lines. Walking around.
Absolutely not. I would lose my mind. I'd be like, you're gonna take that to a different room.
We have something in our home that we discuss with each other and with our children, which is we all ask each other to be good citizens of the house. And whether that comes down to, like, we look at this like a little township here, you know, and you try to look around and try and look at the things that people might need help with. The things might rub people the wrong way. Be considerate of those things.
That being said, there's no crazy villager that walks
Yes.
through. You know?
So me being a good citizen of the house is not doing that to Katie after a day on the morning.
No, we
show.
definitely have a crazy villager in our
You got a crazy villager.
Yeah.
Those are fun too.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, we do share our ideas together, and you know, Katie's working on creating a bunch of things, and you know, I personally, I try to be a little bit protective of the early phase of my ideas, because I don't know if you've ever experienced this, or any of you have experienced this as creators, or anything really. You'll have like a kernel of something in your idea, whether it's a small business you want to start or something, and it's quarter shaped, and you start talking about it, and you realize halfway through you're not fully there yet, and you're watching their eyes dim, and there's no interest in it. And it can kill your idea.
My face also keeps no secrets.
Yeah, Katie. Yeah,
If
yeah.
I don't like it, I'm like.
Yeah, and so I always say, like, hold on to it until you can get your mouth around it, because one of your closest friends might accidentally murder it with their lack of interest in
Totally.
it, and it murdered before it had a chance to live. You know, so
Well, so are you each other's first read?
not always.
No. But not necessarily. We're not each other's first read, but usually by the time something is like pen to paper, we know about it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not happening in secret.
Yeah. I honestly, he generates so much. If I read it, I wouldn't have time to do anything myself. Like,
Wow.
there's just a constant thing. And like, I don't watch all of his stuff. I haven't actually seen this season of the morning show. Like,
You haven't
I
seen
didn't-
last season of the morning show.
I didn't see last season of the morning show.
And by the
I
way,
didn't
neither
finish
have
the
I, so
Hulu
it's totally
series.
fine.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's just like a constant like windstorm of stuff.
Well, I mean, and this bears relation to how we collaborate. I've sort of had a discovery once being in very close relation to my brother in lockstep, where we were writing, directing, and doing everything together. I sort of had this realization that we're going to start repeating ourselves. And there was a little bit of like a conscious uncoupling with my brother, where we still work under the same umbrella and the same company, and we support each other, but we're not in lockstep. So the nature of my collaborations that are good for me, just knowing my engine, is that I make a lot of things, and I try to make them with different partners so that they at once feel some percentage like me and have my voice in them, but then they become different because of the nature of that collaboration. And that formula helped me realize how to correctly collaborate with Katie.
Oh, that's a beautiful.
And say, oh, wow, this is really interesting. I can take this and put this here.
And the project has to be right. We couldn't collaborate on everything together. Like, I have ideas that are not his kind of jam.
What I do.
You know?
Or I
And-
don't do them well, honestly. So it's just like not
Well,
a fit.
when I was thinking about this panel of working with the ones you love, obviously Jay is, part of that, working with your brother and working with your wife. So it's interesting that you have evolved that relationship. I also worked with my sister for 10 years, and we made documentaries. So
Yeah. I also want to say something that, like, I don't know how this is going to resonate, and I feel like weirdly a little vulnerable saying it. But like, there comes a certain point when you're a creator, and not everyone hits this point, but I've made like 60 movies and like 15 documentary series, and I've done so much. I'm 48 years old. I've gone way past anything I ever thought I was going to achieve. That doesn't mean I'm happy at all. But what it means is that I've had the ability, honestly, to say, I've had the chance to express who I am and what I want to say so many times, which most people can't say. And when I'm sitting next to Katie, the person I love the most in the world, and I want to be a citizen of our marriage and a citizen of our home, and I hear her say, I haven't gotten to do that, or it's been a long time since I'm able to do that. Katie's very humble. She had directed a movie with Diane Keaton right before this happened that had financiers in it and wasn't able to do exactly what she wanted to do. But so when I hear that, all I can think of to myself is like, I've gotten to do this a million times. I want to do more of it, but I can afford to slip into this relationship, and when it's time to back away or subjugate the ego, I can do it because I've done it a bunch. Now, of course I slip up, and it does happen. But I wish that, I don't know, I just wish more people would do that, because I think there are really cool opportunities to let people shine in the way that they haven't before.
I mean, it's such an interesting point, and it's kind of what I was trying to say, what the Italian editor had said to me, is like, we can switch roles. And when it's the director's turn, we do everything we can to support the director, and when it's you, you get that. And when it's not you, you give that, And so to be able to do that, and what I also hear is a kind of innate frustration, I think, for a talented female, and I'm not trying to break this down to gender. And I spent a lot of.
But it's inevitable,
It is
right?
part of it, and I can say at
Because
my age that I've seen it.
It is
over and over.
The gender inequality thing is like, the scales tip, right? Like, we went into having a family together saying, I'll do this, but it's going to be 50-50. Like, okay.
We were 28 and 29. We didn't know.
Like, it sounded great, right? Like, oh, and he's like, absolutely. And we, with every intention, stepped into life like that.
We believed it. Yeah.
Inevitably, that's not how it works out. Like, the mom is
We're
the
home.
mom.
Yeah.
And so Mark got to work more and more and more, and I had 2 kids, and I took the jobs I could take, because it shot in LA, and then I made 2 movies before I had my second child, and then I didn't make another movie again for 12 years, because that's
what
what
happens.
happens.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
And
And
the work.
it's not like it was his fault. Like, it is.
We talk about this a lot. The work begets the work, and so as I started to go, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then it was like, yes, we're in an egalitarian marriage, and someone will be here for the kids, but a year or 2 after that, who's getting more offers and more
Right.
opportunities?
I mean, that's what happened with Walton and I, and it was like, no, you go. I got this. You go. You keep going. And then
And you're like,
just
wait, where are you?
Also,
You're so far away.
we had to make money. Like we had to,
Absolutely,
we
you
had
have to
live.
provide,
Like there was
you know?
that, and it was a little bit of a blind spot for us. I think we slipped into it, and then we
Not
like,
even a
whoa.
blind spot. It just was the way the system was. Like there was no other way. Like it wasn't like he was going to say no, because it wasn't like I was getting the offers. It wasn't like we were deciding between two things and I was like, no, you take another one.
And the truth is, you didn't get like totally dunked on. There was work there. Like you were on
like I said,
successful TV show for 7 years. We were actually on the same TV show together for 7 years.
Like
Shot in
freaking
LA.
blessing.
It was a beautiful time. And what was great is that like it was this fantasy football show, and my scenes were mostly with the guys, and her scene was with the guy who was playing her husband. So we were oftentimes, one of us could be home.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that was a
It was a
glorious run. But again, still, when push came to shove, Katie always ate it, you know, and that is part of what we're doing now is like, well, okay, so let's go and make all these wonderful things. And for those of you who are independent filmmakers in the audience now, you know, it's such an interesting time to consider what is the value of an independent film you make? Are people going to go see this in the theaters? What's the new way we're going to take it out? Our old value system, we were so spoiled in like 2005 to 2010 where we had this beautiful socialist system where we would make a movie for like $150,000 over the course of a few weeks. The SAG ultra low budget rate was $100 a day. We used that as the marker. We paid everybody on the crew $100 a day, whether you're the director or the PA. And everybody got points in the movie. We would take the money we made as actors, put it in, go to Sundance, sell the movie for like $2 million. The sound recordist would make like $50,000. It was incredible. And that was our value system, and we were spoiled. And now it doesn't work.
No.
So Katie and I have to stare at each other. We're like, well, what's Magic Hour about now? It used to be about creative sustainability, supporting our community. All money worked. Everything worked. And now we've had to look each other in the eye and say, is it okay if this movie loses money?
Right.
What would that mean if today we said, we're going to go out and just make this movie and travel around to all these wonderful festivals and look people in the eye and share it with them? And maybe it didn't make its money back right away, or maybe it does, maybe, you know, but what would that mean? And so we've had to sort of orchestrate our value system, and it was a little bit of a challenge for us because we were...
Yeah, it's interesting. Magic Hour is like that funny little movie where at every stage, I'm like, oh, if this is it, it was enough. Like making it, we wrapped, and I was like, this was the most beautiful creative experience I've ever had. That is all I needed.
Right.
And that lasted
done.
about 2 days.
Right.
I was like,
Oh, not done.
I hope it cuts
sell.
in. I hope it cuts to a great movie, and then it did, and I was like, oh, it's enough. I did it. I made a great movie.
Isn't that
And then I was like, well, I hope it gets into a film festival. And then it did, and we played South by, premiered at South by, and it was beautiful and amazing. That was enough. And it really
continues.
I think if I can like fall back on remembering this feeling, like remembering sharing it with people, like we had such a beautiful screening anyway that was there yesterday, like sitting and talking about it afterwards is enough. Like making art and sharing it with people is a gift when you're able to do it. So,
But
that'll last for another couple days.
I mean, absolutely. But this brings us to a really good question about movies in general and the business and how it's remaking itself. And there is a vacuum and chaos at the same time. And as you probably all know, you know, the business is restructuring, it's contracting, it spent too much, it didn't spend enough in the right places, we've lost audiences, the pandemic, you know, all of these movie theaters that have closed, the ritual of going to the movies has changed. People wait for things, obviously watch things, you know, on their TV at home ever since COVID. And before that, I think that we were hemorrhaging audiences for thoughtful, smaller, different movies. And so it all came together to create empty movie theaters, closed movie theaters, and a vacuum in the business that I think there's a real hunger for it. Because whenever I go to the movies, I almost cry with relief because you have my attention again. I'm in a theater. I'm not looking at my phone. You know what I mean? It's basic
Also
as
a
that.
shared experience. To hear someone sniffle, to hear someone laugh at a time where you're like, oh, I thought that was funny too. And like you get permission from the audience
And you
the
feel it.
energy feeds
Yes.
you.
Even if you aren't hanging out and talking afterwards, you've had a social experience, you know. And now more than ever, I feel almost like religious about this. Like we have to keep making movies that may not get seen, but you have to keep the art form evolving and alive so that when everything does come back together, and I think that it is coming back together because you look, I live in the Hudson Valley, and you have the Woodstock Film Festival, which is an incredible festival. But what you have here with the Playhouse, with the theaters, what you have in Catskill and Rhinebeck and Saugerties. And,
Yeah, we
and
just played in that little theater in Kingston, the new one that's like 50 seats. It's so sweet.
These places
yeah.
are amazing. Walt and I just cut the ribbon at the Crandall Theater in Chatham, which is 100 years old, and it now has the top of the line audio and projection, and it's coming back. So what you're doing, with that in mind, where are you going? Together and alone, but also with your brother and your production company, and this idea that the cavalry isn't coming, which you talked about in 2015, but it wasn't coming before, and it's really not coming now.
And it, in fact, actually turned around.
They turned around. Actually, it's now friendly fire.
Yeah, exactly.
You are going down. So where do we go from here, and how are you guys going to contribute to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think we do just keep going, because what the hell else do we do? It's all I know. We have another collaboration coming down the pike, a movie he wrote and I directed that stars our daughter.
Amazing.
That is like a YA before sunrise romance that I love. So that was another small production
Is short or feature?
feature
Wow.
that will hopefully do festivals next year. So I'll see you, I hope, in a year. And that one's really special. And then I can't imagine not going, but we have an infrastructure with Duplass Brothers where it's like if we do make them cheap enough, we can keep making them. I'd love to spend someone else's money, and a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's sort of, it is a bit like gambling, but I'm gonna stay at the table for a while.
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate that we got into this business in 2005 and we have the establishments that we have now, because if we want to go out and make a movie, and when you see Magic Hour, for those who haven't seen it, you'll see that it's designed to be made well at that budget level. I always try to tell people, like, you don't want to take a movie that should be made for $10 and make it for $5, because you will just feel scarcity the entire time. What you want to do is take a $4 movie and make it for $5, because then you have 25% abundance the entire time. You have a chance to nail down that movie. Magic Hour is a movie that is that way. So I feel very confident that we can continue to make things in that zone, whether they're films. We're making a lot of television independently right now. I do believe that there's a place there from a business standpoint.
I think that's a very exciting
That's
world.
ready to grow,
Yeah.
and we've had some success with that model. But I think that I love what you said about basically the religious moment and like making these movies as prayers that are just sent out there to a God that probably doesn't exist. Maybe he does. But by praying and by banding arms, we're in a community of people looking forward and sharing things together. And I do believe in that. I'm so grateful that the technology has democratized itself to a place where anyone, whether it's the young kid who is nowhere near this industry, or whether it is someone who is retired and is 81 years old and is making their first movie for the first time, they can do it. And we do a lot to set up, and we're going to do a lot more of this, grants for those kinds of people and support systems. Like our friend Lynn Shelton didn't make her first movie until she was 40 years old.
Amazing.
So we set up a grant called the Filmmaker of a Certain Age grant. And it's for women, non-binary folks who want to make a movie who are not the young film school person. We often miss that,
Well, especially that generation.
That
Our
exactly.
generation. You know
exactly.
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you know, it is slightly easier now.
And it does nod to what we were saying before. Like Lynn had a kid
Yeah.
yeah.
and didn't start
Jane
her career
Campion-
until later because
Yeah.
she had a kid.
Why wouldn't you want a beautiful, soulful person who has lived all of these years to get a little bit of mentorship with the filmmaking acumen and skills, but that big heart and soul at the center?
Well, it's the hours too. You know, I mean, there is an inconvenient truth of the business. And when my son was 9 months old, I was attached to direct 2 movies, and I went into my agents for a meeting because I had to tell them in person I can't do it. And my agent was like 32, a guy, and he's like, "Why don't you just get a nanny?" And I was like, "But it's, you know, making a film is like 16 hours a day.
I always say
will
it's like
never see
having a
my-"
child and it has to be your favorite child.
Right.
if you're gonna
yes.
make a movie.
I mean, and I was like still breastfeeding, and I was still completely in I was sharing a placental sac with my child. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I pulled out of those movies, and they fired me from the agency, you know? And that wouldn't happen. That was 15 years ago. That wouldn't happen today. Like,
Not so directly.
no.
No. Today they would say, "We support you.
But
we
we're
love this."
downsizing.
But we'll never call you
Then
back.
you close the door and they're like, "We can stop submissions to this one,
But I agree. And listen,
but we
I mean,
value you."
you know.
And we so respect
And you
your
go,
life
girl.
choices.
You go be a mom. No, and I think that it would be nice. I mean, if we're talking fantasies, like, you know, French hours would be helpful. You know, walking lunches.
Yeah. Yeah, with French hours when you shoot like 10 hours a day as opposed to 12, and
That's what we did on Magic.
you
Hour.
skip the lunch in the middle. It's a rolling lunch, and it
And you
allows
can-
you to have a little more time at home for your
You
family.
can go home. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, part of to the design of these movies and the sustainability of these movies is also a spiritual sustainability, you know?
Yeah.
Because sometimes indie movies are so hard, and that's where I talk about that working in scarcity. It can not only harm the film, it can harm your spirit and your ability to get back up on the horse. If you expend everything you have on that first one, and it doesn't work for you, you can just be crushed and not come back again. So we're trying to create a womb of abundance where there actually isn't one. And the way to do that is to design for the tiniest budget possible, increase it by just a little bit. And so we will be continuing to make these movies. Katie has a deal with Duplass Brothers where whenever she wants to make a movie
I have an overall.
at this budget level, she is automatically greenlit
Approved.
because
That is a very cool deal.
we're lucky. Like we won't lose money on this movie because
Yeah.
not to get too much in the weeds, like whether we get the right advance or not, we'll have the back end deals in place. We own the movie.
You own the movie.
So over time, it goes into our library. You amortize that cost. Like
You're going to
we're-
make the money.
We're fine.
Do you
Yeah.
own your post facility?
So we have a couple of deals in place where basically, you know, there are companies who do the sound and the color for us, and we try to give them a couple of HBO shows and things like that, and then that subsidizes their ability to do some things like us for cheap. We have a big house in LA where our offices are, and we have this wonderful second floor full of edit suites.
Oh, that's amazing.
And
Wow.
you know, there have been just these wonderful times where like
I edited Sharing a Wall with Baltimoreans.
yeah, there
was
was
so-
where
Oh, wow.
you have, you know, we once had like the original Creep movie and Wild Ball Country and Room 104 and to get like all editing at the same time, and you get to say, come over and watch this scene. Is this working? You know,
That's in,
fact,
your home?
Michael
we have a
Strasberg,
separate,
Okay, I
a
was
separate
gonna say,
place.
the
No,
lead guy and the writer of Baltimoreans, is the voice of one of my hikers in.
Oh, really? Oh, the one that
'cause
was
he
like
was
the
right
woman-
behind me editing, and I was like, I need a quick voice. Can you come over and
yeah.
record?
iPhone 80R,
Yeah.
it works. Yeah.
The one who says the woman that's lost. Yeah. Oh, wow, that is amazing. And I do think, especially for independent films, if you can have your own post to a certain degree, that's where the film really, that's where you get to make that, because you don't have all the bells and whistles on set, so you're going to have to fill in the gaps later. But I kind of think this is a good time to open it up to
I think
the
so. Let's
audience.
do it.
You know.
We've been talking and talking and talking.
Thank you so much for this, first of all, as someone who has collaborated a lot with my wife. So much of this resonates.
Are you okay?
Yeah, no, it's like
Okay.
very...
Do you need to talk? No.
it's just nice to hear things that feel true, that we talk about. But my question is, I love the puffy chair. That was like
Great question. Thank you. Next question, please. Thank you.
That was like a seminal movie for me. And then when I found out that you guys were a couple off screen, I was kind of fascinated by this movie about a breakup where,
It's very therapeutic.
yeah, I wondered if you, I don't know what that was like to, and then, you're still together all these decades later.
It was wildly unsafe, is what I will say. Like, we were dating for a year and a half at that point.
We were 25 and 27. We were not emotionally evolved
We weren't
beings.
we were not in therapy. So when I say it was therapeutic, I got to say things in Puffy Chair that I never would have dared to say to him in life. But we also weren't like emotionally like sound enough to be like, cut. Okay, let's moving on. And it's just like, I just remember going to bed like every night being like, I don't know if we're gonna make it.
Which is why it was so good.
Unsafe is a good word, I think. Luckily, we were so scared and desperate making our first independent film that fear was greater than maybe what was going on between us interpersonally at the time.
No, the fear was just for him.
Yeah.
And Jay, I sat there in my own like existential crisis.
But it was beautiful also, like, because we shot that movie from a traditional script, but we allowed for so much improvisation, And I remember there was this like moment where one of the characters gets married and really isn't valuing the marriage the way that they should, and we're part of that generation where it's just like, well, is marriage an old institution and is it patriarchal and this, and Katie loved the institution of marriage as a person, and she basically told us like, put me in the opposite side of the booth with this guy and let me go, and we're like, okay, great, and she improvised this like monologue about the sanctity of marriage from a 25-year-old girl that was very unexpected and so cool. And that would not have happened had we not just been like, fucking let it rip and go. Now, if I'm making the Puffy Chair today, it's very different. It's like before we go in, we're like, okay, so...
Well, you would have cast like Caitlin Deaver or something.
No, you still look 25.
Oh, I'm
We're
still
good, yeah.
25, okay.
But we would be like, we would have the conversations ahead of time about like, okay, this could get a little sensitive. I want to talk about this. We're gonna do that, and then we'd cut. Are you okay? But
No.
the chaos was fun back then. Yeah.
And it like oddly did ultimately like solidify our relationship because without realizing it, we did have the conversations and we were like, and you're still here, which was nice. I would suggest therapy though, mostly for people.
Yeah.
There's a question over here of someone hiding, but also, yeah. You can also shout it out if you want. You don't need the microphone. Oh, there you are. I got one.
I had a late night, so I need the microphone. I thank you for being here as well. My question is an open question to both of you. When you're writing a protagonist or character that you're going to play, and possibly direct yourself, it's a very complicated process. How do you find the balance between yourself and the characters and your relationship? How do you avoid the pitfalls of maybe putting your, for lack of a better word, shit onto like the other characters and creating a passive protagonist?
I feel so lucky when I can, like, for Magic Hour, because Mark knows my strengths and my weaknesses, so he can write for me in a way that I can step up to, because I will inevitably, like, maybe make it easy for me or, I'll, like, serve myself up like a meatball, is that what it is?
Softball?
Softball.
Softball.
I all of a sudden turned foreign. I don't. How do you say softball?
Yeah.
And like I will just sort of set myself up. But Mark will do this. He like created Magic Hour in a way that just felt like a beautiful challenge, where I was like honored to get the words and be like, oh, I'm excited to dive into that. But I don't think I could be totally trusted to write for myself if it was just me.
I think you could, but For me personally, which this doesn't apply to Magic Hour, but when I'm building a character for myself, I take out all pressure and all thoughts of I should or shouldn't do this. It's difficult enough to try and get a story that works, so I remove things completely. And I know that when I step on set, the dynamics between myself and the other character are going to be so wildly unexpected. I'm going to allow those aberrations to be the chaos that makes it unique each time, as opposed to repeating myself. Does that make sense? The inherent nature of who is across from me will change it so much. But that is how I like to write. I don't like to pressure myself to create, a Shakespearean script that's word for word. I get something that is structurally solid, and I know, great, these 19 scenes add up, and they're going to work. I write dialogue. It's a bit of a placeholder. I know we're going to improvise. And so I just trust that in that improvisation, in that relationship with someone new, the character will eventually become something different than I do each time. That's my hope.
Next question, over there.
Hi.
Why are you hiding in there?
You know what?
What's going
Honestly,
on?
there were like lots of flashing lights, and it was just a little too much for my sensory system.
Good for you. Good for you.
I'm a composer. My husband's a director. We have a 7-year-old. And actually, he worked with Walton. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we have spoken before. Tiff.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
How are you? I really need my distance glasses right now.
It's been such a pleasure hearing this conversation, and I'm so curious to hear a little bit more about the family aspect with the kids and how that works actually for all of your dynamics. Because my husband travels all the time. We travel with him. We try to find ways to be mobile. I mean, I can
How
take
old's
my
your kid?
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've been doing homeschool. I run a nonprofit and I'm a composer, so it's really, so I'm like, I
Wow.
take my studio,
Yeah.
we work it out, we try to find ways, but it's kind of an interesting time at 7 because, you can see these changes, like the kiddo wants to be a little more stable, frankly, so do I.
Yes.
And I'm quite curious how, this life has impacted your kids and
It's really
your
good
relationships
question.
with
Yeah,
them.
it's wild because you do go into it with these ideas of like, this is who I'm going to be. We're going to be nomads.
Right.
We're going to go everywhere. We're going to travel and we'll do the thing. And then all of a sudden your kids do get to a point where they have friends, they have activities, they have commitments, they have sports, they have 1,000 different things, and you're not in control of the schedule anymore. And packing up for your family to move all around the country, world, wherever, is not as easy as you imagined. And you get tired. It's like, it's a lot to pick up and settle and go everywhere. And also, we're not in control always of where we get to go. Like, it's not like you get to go to Budapest. It's like Wisconsin. It's like, I have yet to have like Walton's experience of like, when we were in Thailand for 7 months. It was like, no, I go to Atlanta or New Mexico.
Although Thailand was a
like,
nightmare because it's so far.
Sure.
It's its own
but,
nightmare, yeah.
It's so in my it sounded, I'm sure
Well-
it was awful.
It's a
I'm so
5-star hotel.
Ugh, gross.
It was
Really
horrible.
hard.
Yeah.
The monkeys, right? Ugh.
We should be shot.
But we sort of
We
have
will
this
be first to
romantic
be shot,
idea.
by the way, in the revolution.
This romantic idea of what it would be like, and it sort of never works out that way. And so inevitably, one stays, one goes. You're sort of spread out. You're
And
disparate.
it's hard.
And it's hard.
And just even using the Thailand jokey experience, 7 months. I mean, we had to take our son out of school and do self-study. I mean, he was still in his school, but, whatever. It was complicated because he was 14 and, and
And Thailand for 3 weeks is fun, but 7 months is a long time.
So we were 6 weeks, and then meeting him in various parts of the world that were halfway, just to see him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
That's
it was hard. But I will say you have time until like maybe next year.
Yeah. I mean, the only
So
thing
get it done
I would
now.
add to that is that, Katie, again, she's very humble, but, Katie and I made a decision, basically, that we were going to let our kids have a life that felt cozy home, a school they could relate to, and not take them around. This is a decision we decided to make, and so that meant that we were not going to take television jobs outside of Los Angeles. That's where we live. So Katie turned down a lot of work.
Thinking it would just keep coming.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
She,
not an idiot, you guys. But I did just think, like, once you start getting offers, they'll keep coming. Because this is entertainment. It'll all keep coming.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I didn't know.
And
I didn't know it's going to stop.
And we were getting out of the league. Katie was getting offers. I was getting offers to go out of town. I didn't want to go out of town either. It wasn't like, I got to be the good dad. Part of that is our codependence, and part of that is I wanted to be there around the kids. So I decided to create my own show that I could shoot in Los Angeles specifically, and was able to sort of, continue. And then I got really lucky, and the morning show came my way, which then allowed me to stay there. But the hard answer is that the work took a hit so that we could stay.
Yeah. But we are now, our kids are 17 and 13. Our 17-year-old graduated early and is just got a Disney Plus show. So she's like out. And our youngest, like, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, which then all of a sudden sparks these conversations of like, ooh, what does our next chapter look like? And maybe then we become the nomads.
Yeah, we've been driving all around upstate, being like, ooh, are we gonna move up
You
here?
100% have to move here.
Is
When
this
you're
gonna
ready to
happen?
let go of your house, I'll take it.
Well, there's enough room for all of us.
I was gonna
so.
say.
I'm just going to move
It's
in
too
with
big.
you.
That's fine.
Walton's never there.
I know, so it's fine. Oh, actually, when we moved here 5 years ago, like, we were so dumb. We were like, I don't know, a few months later,
Yeah.
Walton's like, I'm never working at home again. Like, unless somebody makes a show in
Yes.
Hudson, in Woodstock.
But wait,
like,
when are you gonna direct me and Katie and Walton the movie that we shoot on your property for $100,000?
oh, I was going to talk to you about that later.
When does that happen?
We just greenlit it.
100%.
Yeah.
Just happened.
It's a Duplass.
I
Brothers
know
movie.
somebody who can greenlight these movies.
Trust me, I've been thinking about it.
But I would say it's like, life, if we're lucky, is long. So there is a lot of chapters. And so, while your next chapter may lock you down for some time, there's
Or
the
not.
chapters afterwards.
Or
Or
not.
you are the
The
romantic
education
nomads.
system as we know it is crumbling, and
Everything's
take them
up
all
for
around, and
reinvention.
who knows? Yeah.
Exactly. And there's no right way to do it. So you just have to do what works best for your family.
I feel like we should try and one more. I know, because I'm getting a signal.
Yes.
Any more questions?
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. It's been awesome. I wanted to talk, or have you talk a little bit about the TV indie model that you were excited about. That seems really interesting.
Sure. I mean, it's not rocket science, really. It's, in the mid-'90s, we saw a proliferation of independently made films, and everybody was like, wow, this is really interesting. And they would come to Sundance, and then they would buy them, and then new distributors came up in order to distribute them, and a whole ecosystem, that was financially sustainable revolved around that, which is essentially, these were risky projects that people weren't going to finance off the page, but if they saw the product and that it worked, they would then pick them up and buy them. So I'm making a bet that the same thing will happen in television as things become homogenized, as we start to say, studios are saying the attention spans are getting shorter unless there's a murder in the first 30 seconds. It's not going to happen, not going to work. Well, I walk into these rooms all day long, and I'm like, I understand that, but Adolescence was like the number one movie, and it's like a weird movie with no stars in it, a weird series with no stars in it.
Adolescence, Baby
And
Reindeer.
Baby Reindeer, and like don't forget.
Fleabag.
Yeah.
These are all
Hacks.
shows
I mean,
that
they
can
would-
be
So,
independently
exactly.
made.
And you go to the studios, and you if you have anything that's like The Bear or Hacks or Baby Reindeer, they're like, we're not doing those shows anymore.
Right.
And you're like, why are those the
So
shows
I'm
that
gonna take
everyone's
the
talking
risk.
You mean
about? And
everyone's favorite shows? You're not going to make
We're
those?
not making your
All right.
favorite show
Cool
anymore.
move. Cool. And your network staying? What happened?
So I'm like, guys, let's do lottery tickets, So we self-finance an entire series called Penelope. It's about a young girl who runs off into the woods, and I wanted to make a show with a 16-year-old girl at the center of it who didn't have a cell phone in sight, but I didn't want to do it in a super preachy way, And that was important to me. And we had to make the whole thing and risk a tremendous amount of company capital. And luckily enough, Netflix, bought it back from us. It wasn't super lucrative, but it worked. But I also think that there are models where you can make things super cheaply. We make a found footage horror comedy series called The Creep Tapes. And thank you. And those are very, very cheap to make. The cast and crew are 5 people because it's found footage. So I'm reverse engineering the price model so that it can then become lucrative. And when you have a show that, let's just be candidly, that like the guy from The Morning Show is in it. It's made so cheaply. I'm on Shudder, who's a growing streamer and needs that and needs our advocacy. They cannot cancel us at the price that I give it for them. There's not a lot of profit built in for me, but I own it, and they only get a short window on that. So when I go to sell this again 5-10 years later, that's where a lot of that comes from. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of that model. Yeah.
Is there a question in the back of the red sweater?
There are many questions. You guys are inquisitive.
Well, thank you again for being here, and I'm super inspired by all of you as storytellers. But I'm really curious for you both. You're talking about your different styles of directing and creative processes, and I love that you also collaborate so well together. But anyway, my question is, I'd love to learn a little bit more about each of your different approaches for the creative process and kind of, how you each approach storytelling in different ways.
Oh, that's a tricky question to answer because I don't know, creative process just sort of like is a thing that flows and it is interesting because we are so different, but I love what he does so much and I think he loves what I do, and so if you know what that thing is and you know sort of how to weave them together, I think Magic Hour was the first time we ever really did it in this way. My other, my 2 movies that I made sort of collaborating with him originally. My first film was The Freebie, which was just me writing, and he produced it. Black Rock, he wrote, and I directed. I don't know, it was like, but this is the first time that we sort of really, I feel like I'm still learning discovering my vision. Magic Hour was the first time where I was like, ooh, I see and feel this movie in a way that I hadn't with my features before that. It's such a visceral movie. It really does feel like something that just broke out of my heart. So I don't know how to answer how my I don't know. I think it has if I just feel it, like it has to be like just the most honest emotion that I deeply connect with. I don't know. That's not an answer.
I mean, I write every day at the same time. So whether it's working or not, I drop my son off at school and I come home and I make a cup of coffee and I work. And it's vital for me because you just never know how it's going to happen. And you have to just carve out that space and respect that space. And I mean, if I get phone calls or get interrupted or do things, that day is shot, And so I have to be very protective of that space, and just have faith in it because I start off the day feeling really good, and I end the day thinking I should go work at the local grocery store, So, and then I just basically create problems for myself as the day goes on. And then I wake up in the morning and I have a window where I can solve those problems. And then the more I work, I create more problems. And it's just problem solving all day, every day, and tapping into something so much bigger than yourself, and then also something so very specifically yourself. And I've written so many screenplays for so many other directors and worked with Ridley Scott and Jean-Marc Vallée and so many incredible people. And I have learned a lot from working with them, but nothing more than I've learned from myself over 20 years of showing up. And, and I had to support myself as a writer, so I had other jobs, and so to now actually have the ability to show up in the first thing in the morning and not after I come home from work or on the weekends is like, I'm so grateful for that, and
Beautiful.
That's my process.
Beautiful. You are waiting at the bus stop. Yeah. There's a Tom Petty quote where somebody asked him, like, how did you write like 25 indelible pop hits? And he was like, I wait at the bus stop. And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, all my friends, they stay up late. They go to the grocery store and everything. I sit here and I wait at the bus stop for the songs to come. And I love that. And I've spent a lot of time in my life doing that. I used to have your process when the kids were young. I had to learn how to get creative on this clock. And now, for better or for worse, and it does have some negatives, my creative process is so finely tuned. It's such an integral part of who I am. There's very little writing that happens at the desk. Most of the writing happens while I'm walking around my neighborhood with my weight vest on, embarrassing my whole family in front of the neighborhood, or driving to the grocery store and listening to my headphones, and in between conversations where I'm stuck at the end of the table and I'm dreaming off. And then the actual writing process is an athletic event that happens when I'm ready to put the pen to paper, and the script comes out in like 2 or 3 days, very, very quickly after I have been dreaming on it for maybe a year or something like that. Yeah.
I think, to clarify, my biggest thing has been to shut off my critical brain, or like my cool brain, where I'm like, just stop judging yourself, and just being like forcing myself to be creative, like to be so open, and just say, just
it's
go
so
there,
hard.
just go there, go there, and then I sit and I'll get stuck, and then like I'll start making a lasagna, and like it'll fucking come, usually when my hands are covered in something, I'm like, that's the thing.
You also do this. Katie does this.
Being like, hey Siri, open my notes app.
Yeah. Katie does this cool thing recently too, where she's like working in a creative deck format, and she's such a visual person that when the words start to either dry up or get confusing, she'll start to
go to Pinterest,
bring in the visuals, and then it starts to become a movie in front of her, and then that re-inspires her and goes. So she's good at little tricks like that.
Yeah, but it really is just shutting off my stupid critical brain, where I'm like, that's dumb. Stop doing that.
Recently, have you ever heard of the brick technology? Yeah. I bricked my phone from all social media, and I swear to God, like it wasn't that I was on social media or Instagram, but yes, I would move through it.
You know it's there.
But you know it's there. And my brain became attuned to quick hits of dopamine, And as soon as I just completely shut it all off, like went back to the 90s, my focus was so much better, like all day long.
It helps. So many distractions.
It's time to wrap it up.
We're wrapping it up.
It's time to wrap it up.
Way back.
She's like, no, you can't have
Sorry,
it.
Marishka's gonna have
We're going to do it quick.
Put Marishka in that green room and
Yeah.
wait. Just yell.
We're going to do it quick.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm also a filmmaker. I work with my boyfriend. For my first feature, my producer hired my boyfriend as my first AD, as sort of like the first line of defense.
What a flex.
I know.
Yeah.
Super indie. We could do whatever we want. And I think the hardest part about doing my first feature was kind of coming to terms with my socialization as a woman, and all the, you guys kind of touched on it with people going to Mark instead of you to like when you're directing, and I think that happened to me as well.
Well, it's also tricky because the AD is constantly telling you what to do, when to do it.
Exactly.
And that you have no more time.
Yeah. So there's a power dynamic already inherent, like within the set, but also within society. And yeah, I just like had to, it was dark, like I had to deal with that. I had to go to therapy about it afterwards, like this sort of fear of like coming forward and coming into myself and performing as a director.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you've had to deal with that, and
Absolutely.
also how like maybe Mark empowers you to move past
look,
that?
I mean, it's impossible. I think, my biggest struggle has been imposter syndrome because I didn't go to school for filmmaking. I'm an actor turned director. And it really was only in the last couple years where I was like, I'm really good at this. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I think for my first couple films, I didn't know I was, which is okay too. But also knowing enough to say to someone on your crew, I don't know, what do you think? How do you think we should do this? I don't know, I'm out of my depth here. You tell me, DP, about the lenses, about like what, It took me a very long time to be confident in not knowing and not having all the answers, but knowing that I know what I want, even if I don't know what the name for it is.
I think that's so important. I'm so glad you brought that up because there's this thing in directing where it's like, unless you feel like you know every single aspect of the job and can speak intelligently about everything, then maybe you're not a good enough director, which frankly, it's bullshit in my opinion. Like, I don't know lenses. I don't care about lenses. I'm a good director. I do a specific kind of thing. And I think that it's much harder for people who aren't normally, in the director's chair. And quite frankly, like, as a woman, as a person of color coming in, like, you're just under a different scrutiny. It's just different. It sucks, but it's true. So what Katie is talking about, I think is really good, is like that confidence and that ownership of like, you know what? I don't know what the right answer for this is on that. What do you think? I'm going to lean on you because I believe in you. And then I also know this really, really well, and you're going to listen to me here. There's something about that when I watched you start to do that was like really empowering.
And in the most crazy, and it was the movie I did with Diane Keaton, of all places, that I learned that skill or just adopted that confidence because I was like, I didn't like the script very much. They wouldn't let me change it. It wasn't mine, but I wanted to work with Diane so badly.
That movie,
exactly. But it was really incredible to walk on and just be like, okay, I am the captain of this ship. It's okay. Like, and you just sort of have to stand in it and own it. And almost you're tricking yourself a little bit. And then all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm not. I'm actually the captain of this fucking ship. And once you can make that mental shift and that emotional shift, it changes everything because it does make it okay to say, I don't know.
I know as an actor, it's my favorite thing to see is when somebody comes to a director, we're going to get off in a second. And they're like, and the director, because what you're told as a director is you need to have all the answers and you need to step forward with like politician-like confidence and say, I've got it. And when a director goes, man, I don't know, that's really interesting. Let's figure that out. I'm like, whew, I can trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you work with him again, your boyfriend, as an AD, tell him no. It's the biggest power play you can ever make. He said, we're moving on. He said, not yet. I'm not done yet. I'll make it up to you in the next shot, but I'm not ready to move on yet.
Just like we're doing at this panel, and we're moving on.
Wait. We are moving on. I have one quote, just because this has been about love and working with the one you love, and this is a French filmmaker. How can you possibly stay together for 40 years other than through shared work?
For real.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Magic Hour's playing at 2:45 today? No, 3:15.
3:15
At the Tinker down the street. Yeah.
Yeah. Come see.